Welcome to toy-polloi. No Legos were harmed in the making of this video.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today we're going to be taking a look at repairing this vintage He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Thunder Punch He-Man. Now this is a figure, I've picked up quite a few of them over the years, and I think pretty much every single one of them I've got is broken. It's a really cool figure with a really cool feature that enables you to put some cap gun rings in the back of it, pull the arm back, and that will fire the arm forward, and a little hammer inside fires and ignites one of the caps on these cap rings, and you get a sort of punching or thunder punching sound. But there is a problem with it, as I say, and that is the fact that the bit of plastic that holds the sort of firing mechanism in place, it has two little bits on either side of his shoulder, and these tend to snap off. I'm guessing it's because of the force of the hammer that fires out of this hole. I can show you that hammer now. Just if I turn his hand, you can see that that hammer fires backwards, hits the caps which sit on this little piece here. Let me just put some caps on so you can actually see what I'm meaning. So I put those on. That hammer strikes one of the caps here, and it pushes this piece backwards, and I'm guessing that that has enough force to snap the bits of the back of He-Man's body off. Either that, or a child, if they sort of get annoyed with this toy, you can actually pull this sort of back by hand, and that would also snap them off. And as you can see, I have three figures here. All of these have this same problem. They've all got the back part broken. The two on the right are Taiwanese versions of He-Man. The one on the left is actually a Mexican version. This doesn't have the backpack piece at all. This is a sort of long gone, so unfortunately we can't fix this one. But the other two I think are perfectly fixable, and I want to get these both up and working so that we can actually get the Thunder Punch working and be able to ignite those caps and make him make that proper Thunder Punch sound. When Thunder Punch He-Man was advertised on TV, I remember the adverts containing some of the angriest and most aggressive kids I think I'd ever seen in an advert. It was one of those things that really sort of stuck in my mind. So let's take a quick look at that advert and you can see exactly what I mean.
He-Man, He-Man. Now to touch my Thunder Punch, you hear it here, but you feel it there.
Skeletor figure, Castle Grayskull and Thunder Punch He-Man figure each sold separately. You put the castle together.
With He-Man over there, Grayskull will be mine. Like I said, Boneface, you hear the thunder here, but I feel the punch here.
Thunder Punch He-Man, new from the Masters of the Universe collection. Skeletor and Castle Grayskull each sold separately. From Mattel.
Now I've already started to do a little bit of work on these figures off camera because there's a lot of things I've shown previously in the videos. The first thing I actually did was on one of these He-Man figures, it had got damp at some point, so the mechanisms inside, which are all made of metal, had started to fuse together a bit and made the function very stiff, and so it didn't actually want to work. And the easiest way to fix that was actually to squirt some WD-40 inside the back of He-Man. There are plenty of access holes all around the back, so I squirted WD-40 in all of those, let it soak in for a bit, and then just manually sort of made the mechanism move and work, and in the end it freed up and it got the whole mechanism working, and it actually fires quite nicely. I've also put new leg bands on both of these He-Man figures. The leg bands were pretty rotten and they didn't stand up particularly well, so using some He-bands, which I've previously shown in many videos, I've replaced all of those. I'll put a link in the description to show that video. I also took the time to touch up the chrome on the front of He-Man's chest using a Molotow liquid chrome pen. If you're doing this on your He-Man figure, then make sure to let the chrome cure for a good long time. A couple of weeks is what I would recommend. If you don't let it cure, every time you touch it you'll dull it a bit, but give it 2 weeks and it actually covers really nicely. I've also repainted the face and the hair of one of these He-Man figures, which again is something that I've covered in a recent video, so I'll put a link to that in the description because the hair was really quite chipped. All of this stuff I've done previously, so I'm not going to show it again in this video, but do check out my other videos if you want to see how that is done. So now we can get onto the main part of this video, which is getting this mechanism working. So as I showed, you've got a hammer in here which you lock in place, and as you turn the body, that hammer fires out, strikes a cap on this back plate. You can rotate the caps sort of one at a time. There are 8 caps on a cap ring, so each time you fire it you turn this knob one time and it moves the caps on once. And again, to reset this hammer you twist his body one way and it locks in place. You can see the hammer back there, and then if we sort of move his arm just a bit, that will release that and you'll see it fire out. So So there you go. So that mechanism all works, but the problem is that this pack does not hold in place. So you could hold it and manually do that, and that would get the cap to fire. But what we want to do is actually get this to lock back in place and repair these missing pieces here. And to do that, we're going to be using some styrene. Now, I've shown that in multiple videos. You can actually buy it in all sorts of shapes. So what I've done is I bought some L-shaped styrene, and this is from a company called Evergreen. And this is a 4.8mm size piece, and it's you get 3 pieces in a pack, and it looks like this. So it is an L-shaped piece of plastic, and from that we are going to fashion some new little clips that sort of fit in the back of He-Man. But before we can do that, we actually need to sort of tidy up where this is broken. Now this one is broken relatively neatly. You can see it's sort of got a fairly sort of neat sort of edge on it, but really we want something that's very neat. So what I've got here is a square needle file. If you look at the end of this, you can see that it does have a square shape, and I'm going to use this to carefully sort of file down the edge here and make a nice square little corner. It doesn't take long to do this, so plastic is quite easy to work with. But I just want to make it really sort of as neat as I possibly can, and as easy to fit this on, which, as you can see, this has got a very sort of square edge to it. So if we can make this nice and square, it should make things a lot easier. So I'll just file these down. That one's not too bad at all. It's pretty close. This one needs a little bit more work, so I'll just get that one filed as well. So my plan is to take a piece of this L-shaped styrene, and you can see that just by placing it there, it already sort of starts to look like it is going to work. And I'm going to sort of cut and modify this until I have a piece that I think will fit in there. You can actually see that there's a sort of a gap inside, so I might even make a piece that sort of slides down as well, so it's not just an L-shape, that it sort of goes down into the body a bit more, just to give it some strength, because obviously this takes quite a sort of a punishing blow from that hammer when it fires backwards. That's quite a lot of force, because it's got to bang these 2 bits of metal together enough that it will ignite one of the caps. So I want something that's going to be really strong. Yeah, I think really all I can do is take this bit of plastic, and I'm going to start modifying it, and I'll see what I can make. And once I've got one that works, I will then make a mirror version of it which can go on that side. But I think I can make something that's going to do the job. So yeah, I'll just get modifying with this, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so this is what I've made. It is pretty tiny. You can see it's a tiny little sort of hook-shaped piece, but I think this is going to do the job quite nicely. It's so small actually, I'm having trouble sort of holding it in place just to test it. So I'm going to use a pair of tweezers here and just hold it so I can show you exactly what it is. So you can see it's got a little sort of angled piece at the front and then a larger piece on the back. And the reason I've left that bit larger on the back is because I want to get enough sort of gluing area that this is held in very firmly. And the idea is that this piece is going to be sort of glued glued in place. I'll just rest it there. I don't want to lean it too much because it will fall in. It's going to be glued about there. I'm going to be using plastic weld to make sure this is sort of stuck really nicely. Plastic weld works incredibly well with the styrene sheet, and the plastic that this body is made of, I think it will also stick very nicely to that. So I'm going to use that to get it sort of stuck in place. I think the first thing to do is let's stick this sort of one side in first and see if it works. And if it does, I'm going to make a duplicate of it, as I say, in a mirror version, and we'll do it on the other side. But let's plastic weld this piece in first, and we'll just see how well that holds. So this is the plastic weld. It's called EMA Model Supplies Plastic Weld. As I say, it is very good for this sort of plastic. You apply it with a brush. So I'm going to get everything ready. There's my tiny piece of plastic. I've got my tweezers here. And the first thing I'm going to do is get some plastic weld on the inside of He-Man, get this plastic starting to sort of dissolve a little bit so that it gets a little bit sticky. And then once we've done that, I'm going to grab the piece, I'll drop it in. It starts to stick quite nicely, and then I can start to move it around and make sure I've got it in the right position. There will be some fine tuning of this, I'm sure, once it's stuck, but initially I just want to get it in place. And I can drop a little bit more plastic weld in around it, make sure all these surfaces are starting to bond. Then we'll let it dry, and we'll test to see if the pack actually works. Yeah, that's looking good. That's looking pretty firmly held in place. With plastic weld, you have to let the plastic weld evaporate off. So I'm just going to give this sort of 10 minutes to set, and then we'll test it. And I think in the meantime, I'm going to actually start constructing the other one, because I can see this is going to be quite successful. So I'll construct that while this is drying, and then we'll sort of do some fine tuning. As you can see, I've now put the other side in. I've let everything dry as well. I did actually add a couple of other bits of thin pieces of styrene, just some offcuts from the L-shaped piece, just to sort of pad this out so I can try and get a bit more of the original shape going on that was there on the back of He-Man. As you can see, these now actually work quite well. I can put this backpack on and it slips down and it's now held in place really very firmly. So let's test this out. I've sort of primed He-Man here, so we'll put his backpack down and we can fire this off. Yeah, that works well. The backpack has stayed in place, so let's cock that again and we'll do that another time. Yeah, that is all working. So I'm just going to do a little bit more sort of fine tuning on these. I've got my sort of file here. I'm going to file down some of the rough edges and try and shape these new little pieces just so they look a little bit more like the original shape of He-Man's back. And then we'll give it some paint and make it so that they sort of are hard to spot. But overall, I think that's working very nicely. So yeah, just a bit of fine tuning here, a bit of shaping, and then we'll add a little bit of paint on top of that. For painting these new bits of styrene, I've just got some Humbrol acrylics here. I've got a number 61, which is a flesh tone, but it's not really the right flesh tone. So I've mixed in a very tiny amount of 238, which is a bright red, and then a very small amount of just normal black. I didn't have a Humbrol black, so this is just a Vallejo number 70.950 black. And I've got a colour that is, yeah, I'm going to say pretty close. You can see here, if I show you this side, I've just added some paint on top of that. I think that's not going to be too bad. It's really quite hidden as well around the back of He-Man, so I just want to sort of hide the fact that it's white plastic. So I'm just going to quickly paint this over. Once this paint is dry, I will put a clear top coat on that gives it a slightly more glossy finish to match the sort of glossiness of the original plastic. But you can see that is not going to look too bad at all, and I think you would hardly notice that this had been repaired. And it means that we can actually have a go at firing the caps and getting his thunder punch effect working, and yeah, we'll give it a good test. There's one final thing to fix on this He-Man, and that is the punching arm on this one is incredibly loose, so it doesn't really sort of want to pose. The other arm seems pretty good and still poses, but this one is quite loose. Now these arms are attached differently to sort of standard He-Man figures. Standard He-Man figures have the peg on the body, so you can actually remove the arms. With these Thunder Punch He-Mans, the arms are popped inside the body, so they're much harder to remove, so you can't put any sort of PTFE tape on the actual sort of post to get it to sort of stiffen up. What we're going to use instead is some shearing elastic. Now you can buy this really quite cheaply at most sort of haberdashery shops. I've got a big roll of it here which cost me I think about £1 or something. All you need to do is grab some of this shearing elastic, and we can then wrap that around the offending loose arm, and we'll tie it together and cut away the bits that we don't need, and that will stiffen up the joint really quite easily. And because it's dark, you can't actually see that we've got anything in sort of in this joint. It also means that if you want to at some point, you can remove it, so it's not a sort of non-permanent way of stiffening up a loose joint. So if we just tie that like that, and I'm going to trim these as short as I can, and then they will, because it's elastic, it will ping back inside and you won't see it. There we go. Just rotate that round a few times just to get that in. You can see we can now pose that arm. It's much stiffer. There's a little bit of the elastic there just sticking through, so all you need to do with that is we'll get a knife and we can push that into the joint like so. But you can see that that now works, and that will be a nice poseable arm. So let's get on and we'll test the Thunder Punch action and see if it actually works. Okay, so now we have the moment of truth to check that this actually works. We can open the backpack now. It does stay firmly in place. We'll pull that down. You can see I've already cocked the little hammer so that that's in the sort of ready to fire position. We'll get some of these caps. Now incredibly, these cap rings are still available, still made to this day. I picked these up off eBay. I bought a pack of 20 for about £2, and yeah, they're exactly the same size. So all we've got to do is slot those onto the mechanism inside the back of He-Man. Put those in place. We'll lock the thing down, and now we can see if this works and how loud the Thunder Punch is. Nope, didn't work. Let's try that again. Do that again. Nope. Nope. It may be these are duff caps, who knows. I'm going to turn that one round. We'll try it another time. Wow, there you go. It's pretty loud, and you can see that actually it did open the pack even though I've got the new thing in place. We'll try that again. It hasn't broken anything that I've put there, but yeah, let's try that one more time. Turn that round. We will cock it again. Let's try it, see if that's primed it enough. But it's pretty loud, it's quite deafening. Unreliable is what I would say with this one. Maybe it is the caps. Let's try swapping those caps over for a different one of them, and we'll see if these are any better. These are pretty cheap, so I have a feeling that some of them will be a little bit duff, but let's try these ones. So I'll put those on and line them up properly. We'll cock the firing mechanism. Let's try that and see if we can get one of those to go off. No, unreliable. Oh, there we go, got it. And as you can see, it does pop the whole of the back open. It's quite a forceful little thing. We'll do that one more time on this one and see how well that works. Now we try the other figure that I've fixed up as well, see if that one is more reliable. Oh yeah, that is good and loud, that one. We'll try the other one, which I'll bring in, and let's get this one loaded and see if that one works equally as well or equally as unreliably. So a new run of caps. You can see they are sort of fresh. I'll put this one around. This one again is already primed. I've put it in the sort of firing position. Push those on good so that they're nice and firmly in place. We'll put that down. Let's see how well this one fires. That one is a bit better. It's absolutely deafening in my room here, and you can see it does push the back of the pack open. Maybe I need to raise that up a bit, but I don't think there's actually much space to raise it. But the whole mechanism does work. It is loud, but yeah, it's a deafening little toy. It really is quite deafening, possibly because I'm doing it in my tiny room here. Shall we try one more time, just as I've got all of these caps, and I might as well make my ears ring one more time. Let's do it one final punch. Blimey, that is loud.
Now to test my Thunder Punch. You hear it here, but you feel it there.
Skeletor figure, Castle Grayskull, and Thunder Punch He-Man figure, each sold separately. You put the castle together.
And there you go, that is the end of this video. As you can see, I've now got two Thunder Punch He-Man figures that actually do work again. I have a feeling that it is the force of the hammer that actually breaks the back of these toys, just judging by how forceful it is and how easily it knocks this backpack out of the way. The bits of plastic that were there originally really were quite thin, and so as these plastics age, if you try to fire that mechanism again, you're very likely to snap those bits of plastic off. I think with the bits I've repaired, because they're now made out of styrofoam, firing, which has a little bit more flex to it, they should survive a good few goes of actually running the caps and sort of firing off the Thunder Punch mechanism without breaking it. But really these are going to be for display purposes for me, because I didn't have one that wasn't broken, so now I've got a couple that I can actually put on display. And as I showed, there are quite a few other fixes as well that needed to be done to these figures. So I hope this video has been of interest to you. If you have enjoyed it, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.